Hello friends! The 604th day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. Near Avdiivka, the enemy resumed offensive operation and is not abandoning attempts to encircle Avdiivka. The General Staff claims that over the past 24 hours, 15 tanks and more than 100 Russian armored vehicles were knocked out in this area. The enemy unsuccessfully tried to attack in the area of Novokalynove, Stepove and Sieverne. The head of the city military administration Barabash said today that the Russian army is now advancing with the same force as on October 10th and 11th. He noted that the situation is difficult but controllable. Also, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine, Zaluzhny, visited the Avdiivka direction. Here the enemy does not abandon attempts to break through our defenses and surround the city. The enemy is actively using assault units, throwing a large number of armored vehicles, using aviation and artillery. Nevertheless, our soldiers continue to heroically repel attacks, the commander-in-chief said in his Telegram channel. Ukrainian military telegram channels report the Russian troops have resumed their offensive from Krasnohorivka, that is, from the north. In the south of Avdiivka, the enemy advanced from Vodyane in the direction of Sieverne and Lastochkine, but achieved no result. My friends, the robot will continue.
At the same time, the advanced enemy units south of the city were able to advance slightly and take control of the overpass over the railway in the area of the Donetsk Ring Road. The Russians are also advancing on the Avdiivka waste heap, where, according to information from the Ukrainian side, fighting continues. In turn, the Russians write in their reports that they were allegedly able to completely occupy a strong point on the waste heap and that the Ukrainian army retreated behind the railway tracks. There is no confirmation of this information at the moment. In the Kharkiv direction, the enemy continues to hold the initiative, and this is now the hottest spot on the front in terms of the number of clashes, Ukrainian telegram channels write. The morning report of the General Staff states that in the Kupiansk sector more than 30 enemy attacks were repulsed in the Synkivka and Ivanivka areas. In the Svatove sector, the Russians unsuccessfully tried to attack 12 times in the Nadiia area. In the Lyman sector, the Russians continue to put pressure on the Ukrainian army in the Makiivka area. Western experts yesterday reported the advance of the Russians in the Kupiansk sector in the Ivanivka region, and today they record the advance of the Ukrainian armed forces in this area. Meanwhile, Leopard tanks appeared in the Lyman area, Ukrainian military officials say. They say their use has been limited so far due to high Russian drone activity and heavy artillery fire. We don't go out directly. We immediately jumped out, worked and left, for now. Direct assault actions are not for us yet, said a military man named Vitaly. I note that previously these tanks were seen only in the direction of the main attack of the Ukrainian armed forces on the southern front. That is, now they are beginning to be dispersed along the entire front line. In the Melitopol sector, the Russians counterattacked in the Verbove area, but the Ukrainian army repelled the onslaught, the General Staff said today. Telegram channels write about the partial success of Ukrainian forces north and west of Verbove. Western experts record the progress of the Russians between Novoprokopivka and Verbove. Russian military telegram channels continue to write about attempts by the Ukrainian armed forces to land and create a bridgehead on the eastern bank of the Dnipro. According to them, fighting continues in the area of the railway bridge near Kherson in the Pischanivka area. They also write about an attempt to land the Ukrainian army in the Novokalynove area near the village of Kherson. The General Staff does not comment on the battles on the eastern bank of the Dnipro, which the Russians write about. In the Kherson direction, the defense forces are conducting a counter-battery fight, inflicting fire on the enemy's rear. This is how the General Staff describes the situation today. Ukrainian telegram channels are also silent on this matter. At the moment, it is not yet clear whether this is targeted activity by the Ukrainian armed forces in order to force the Russians to transfer their reserves to this front from other sectors, or preparations for a full-scale crossing of the Dnipro. Theoretically, an offensive across the Dnipro for the Ukrainian army may make sense from the point of view of the prospects for the development of an offensive in southern Ukraine. On the eastern bank there are no such powerful multi-level fortification lines as on the Zaporizhia front, which the Ukrainian army is now trying to break through with great difficulty. However, the natural barrier is the Dnipro River, the full-scale crossing of which is a very difficult task. Until now, the Ukrainian army has not made such attempts. Everything was limited to the deployment of sabotage and reconnaissance groups and the creation of small bridgeheads, the retention of which cost very large forces since the enemy fire was powerful, and supplies through a wide river, which is also completely shot through by the Russians and is under their constant observation, is an extremely difficult matter. Therefore, crossing the Dnipro looks like an extremely difficult and risky undertaking.
Friends, considering what is happening in my country, this channel is now my only source of income. If you are able to support me financially, I will be very grateful. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.